Hello, hello, hello again, and welcome to your daily serving of my voice. You are listening to the Inappropriate Podcast with me, your host, Brooke, aka White Trash Barbie on Instagram and TikTok. This is episode 4. If you did not know, this episode is a continuation of last week's episode 3 because it ended up being way too long. So this is going to be a continuation of last week's episode. So if you don't know what's going on, maybe listen to that one first and then come back over here and hop right back into it with us. Episode 4 starts right now. That's what I'm upset about. You're upset about for having to answer questions, bitch. I'm upset that my mother is in such fucking denial. She thinks I'm gonna attend this church. She thinks I'm gonna go there. She's inviting me. There sometimes there are just no words. The bullshit fog is thick today. All right. Oh, you know what else I'm upset about? I just looked at my list again. You know what else I'm upset about? My fucking sister suggesting, reaching out to me multiple times, bothering the fuck out of me about this, saying that I should meet up with my abuser, that I should meet up and make up with my abuser, that I should talk this out. Let me get this straight. Let me get this straight. All right. This person had 25 years to apologize. This person had 25 years to admit what they did. This person had 25 years to admit not only me, but everybody else that they lied to and manipulated and controlled, to convince me and everyone else that they did not do this, that they had no idea what I was talking about, right? That I was just a dumb child who perceived wrestling the wrong way. A 30-year-old man wrestling with a 7-year-old girl, because that makes all the fucking sense in the world. But anyways, so woo! So I've got my sister up my ass because all of these family members are now at this point in time, which was a couple of years back now, reaching out to her, harassing her, basically threatening her, fear mongering her like they've done our entire goddamn lives. And so she is then doing the same shit to me, up my ass about it, like suggesting that I meet with this person who had over 25 years to do anything, to literally do anything. Didn't do one goddamn thing. This man had over 25 years to do something, to do anything, to halfway apologize, to halfway acknowledge what the fuck was done instead of lying to me and everyone else and gaslighting the fuck out of me and making me question my own experience of reality. You had 25 years to reach out, motherfucker. Wants me to attempt making amends with this person. If that doesn't scream cult, folks, I don't know what does. If that doesn't scream cult-like control, I don't know what the fuck does. You're suggesting to me to meet up with an abuser. This person abused me as a 7-year-old child, lied about it to everyone, lied and manipulated and controlled everyone around me and also me to believe that this did not happen and that I was just a dumb child taking this shit the wrong way. And you continue to encourage me to try to make amends with this cunt. But the more I think about this, the more I'm just so grateful that I moved away because, like, if you didn't grow up in like a cult type of experience, I'm just gonna say cult. I'm just gonna say cult because that's what the fuck it is. It's a cult. Kiss my ass, suck my dick, bitch. It's a fucking cult. If you did not grow up in or around a cult and you have like no idea how that mindset works, because a lot of people will be like, well, why didn't they just leave? Why didn't they just say something? The more that I think and talk about this, the more that I'm just so grateful I moved away because the farther away you are, the less control they have over you. Especially when it's like, you got to think about this, especially if it's a child, right? Like, so a child doesn't have any authority in most situations. Most people are going to listen to an adult over a child, right? Especially if it's a man, because this was in the South, good old fucking Bible Belt, kiss my ass, rotten hell, Bible Belt, where, what the man says goes, basically. So not only was it me, a female child, against an adult male, so there's that control. And then there's also the control of everyone around me, all this social pressure of my mother, my sisters, every other adult telling me that this did not happen, that I was wrong, that I was lying, that they don't know what I'm talking about, that they don't believe me. Like over and over and over and over. So, and these are people that you have to be around, right? Like you're forced to be around because it's family. It's family. So, I mean, you have to fucking see them. Unfortunately, typically you have to be around family at some point, right? It's a very hard thing to get out of. So that's just a little bit of perspective. If you've never been in a cult or around a cult, the amount of control, it usually starts really early when the person is a child, for one. So they've already been broken, if you will. They've already been broken down to a point of submissiveness as a child because it's easier to do then, right? On top of that, there's all this social pressure around them, everyone around them, all the adults around them, everyone in charge, everyone calling the shots, right? All this pressure where they are just being forced do to do whatever is being told or suck it up or what the fuck ever. And so by the time that they're old enough to speak out or say something or get away. They are so broken down that they have either forgotten what happened because they have just you like put it out of your memory because it's survival, right? You have to keep going. Like it's a survival instinct. You have to keep going. And if you're continually like abused, you have to focus on you have to put your mind somewhere else in order to keep going. So in doing that, you just you bury the trauma. You bury the trauma so that you can keep going because otherwise, I mean, it would be literal hell on earth. So that's a lot of what happens is by the time they are old enough to possibly do something about it or not even do anything about it, but just get out of it, they've either forgotten or they're so afraid and they've become so submissive because of the control and the abuse that has already taken place. So I hope that that helps some people understand why people don't speak out or why they don't get out of it or run away or fucking whatever because it's just there's so much more to it than that. Like that's a fucking ignorant ass thing to say. It's ignorant as shit to say that. Next topic. Next topic. All right, I'm just gonna fucking talk about it. I'm just gonna fucking talk about it because what the hell? Our next topic, moving on, is narcissistic parents. Enter narcissistic parent number one. So, the list of things that I'm about to discuss are things that I did not notice until I was like 30 years old. Because, again, back to what we just fucking said, growing up, you're just trying to survive, right? You trying to motherfucking make it. So if you have an abusive parent, you have to put these things out of your mind in order to keep going because otherwise you wouldn't be able to keep going. So, a lot of times people will not realize this until much later. They're out of the situation. They've had time away from it. They've experienced healthy relationships, and so they're starting to see, wait a minute, maybe this was like kind of fucked up. Maybe that was incredibly fucked up. Maybe there was something wrong with that because, of course, growing up, what your experience is you think is normal. You don't just you grow up thinking that your experience is normal. You grow up thinking that what you're experiencing, everybody is experiencing because that's just the natural inclination, right? Like, because I thought these things were normal. I thought everybody's parents were like this. I thought everybody's parents did this shit. Like, I thought everybody's parents acted this way because that was what I was experiencing. And so I just thought, well, that's normal. But surely that's yeah, everybody does that. Turns out that is not the case. So I'm gonna list a few things off, and if you have experienced any of the things that I mention in this discussion about narcissistic parents, you may in fact have a narcissistic parent if you recognize these behaviors. So I'm so sorry if you haven't realized that yet. And I'm sorry if it. I'm sorry. That's all I can say is I'm sorry. So narcissistic parents will not ever admit wrongdoing. Narcissistic parents use their children to feed their ego. And by that, like, I mean, like, that could be the child's affection. So the affection of the child, like, sort of, like, not worshiping, but kind of like, you look up to your parents as a child. Like, you look to them for examples of how to act, how to behave, what to do, like, how to conduct yourself. The interests that you have, like, you're looking at your parents, right? You're learning from your parents. So, in a way, children sort of idolize their parents. And so, in that sense, narcissistic parents feed off of that because the narcissistic people love being adored, they love being worshiped, right? So, having a kid then feeds that part of their ego where they have somebody who's constantly always there adoring them, looking up to them, idolizing them. So, they have a child. They have this child because they need to feed that part of their ego. They need that attention. They need that love. But the issue with it, there's nothing wrong with wanting love. The issue with this is that's the only reason they're doing it. They're not taking into account the child's experience. You can't fucking have a child and then not ever consider the child's point of view. Textbook case narcissistic parent does not care or is completely unaware of the child's point of view. So another way that narcissistic parents use children to feed their ego is the attention that these parents get from other people for having their child. So whether that's like out in public and for me, it was the experience of having a single mother it's like, oh, she works so hard. Oh, she's got it so rough. Oh, look at her with her kids as a single mom working so hard, just trying to make it. And like that was my experience. I can't speak for other people's experience, but that's just one example of how having children causes other people to give you more attention, right? Pregnant women get all kinds of attention for being pregnant. People feel bad for them. People, they adore them. They think pregnant women are so cute. So you get all this extra attention for having a child from other people. Which it's really the child that's getting you the attention in the first place. It has fucking nothing to do with you. But narcissistic parents feed off of that extra attention and that extra love and that extra adoring that they get from other people because of their child in some way. And again, there's not really anything wrong with wanting affection or attention or, being adored from other people. The issue with this is those parents then don't give a fuck about anything that the actual child is feeling or anything that their child is experiencing or going through, or is even if their child is like trying to communicate with them, they don't listen. I know my experience, it didn't matter what I said. It was not heard. It was not heard. It was not given a fuck about. Like, there were no fucks given on that day when Brooke tried to express herself. So here we are. So the issue is not in wanting affection or in wanting the attention or the love from others. It is in using your child to get that attention, but also not giving a fuck, but at the same time, not giving a fuck about how it is affecting the child. Like, you're not taking their experience into consideration whatsoever, and that's not a parent. That's not a parent. Or if it is a parent, it's a sorry motherfucking sad ass excuse of a parent. Okay, so on my list of narcissistic parent things, another thing that narcissistic parents will do is anytime that you do have an issue with them in some way, like maybe it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even have to be a big deal. It's literally just something that upset you, and it can be the smallest thing, but you're a person. You have feelings. Your feelings are valid. You experience things and you try to express that. And then if it has in any way, like, you are saying something that they have done wrong, which we all fuck up, we all do things wrong, right? Like, we're human. We all mess up, and we should especially be able to admit that to our children. Well, another thing that narcissistic parents do is instead of acknowledging and apologizing for somehow that they may have unintentionally hurt you, they will gaslight the fuck out of you and tell you that you're wrong, basically. You're wrong in some way. So, I'll do a list of quotes here just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. For me, it was the playing of the single parent card. That was what I experienced. Anytime I had an issue that I tried to communicate, it was immediately I feed you, I clothe you, I put a roof over your head. I'm a single mom. I'm a single parent. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. So then once that happens so many times, time after time after time, you try to say, hey, I have an issue with this. Hey, you hurt me. Hey, I have this is going on in my brain right now. I'm really struggling with this. And after time of just being gaslit and basically made to feel bad for even having feelings in the first place, they gaslight you and they make you feel like shit for having feelings and experiences. God forbid you have a human experience. God fucking forbid. So then they make you feel bad for coming to them for that. So after experiencing that multiple times, especially like over years at a time, you feel guilty for being honest. You feel guilty for even bringing up issues at all, any kind of issue. So because you internalize this whole, well, my feelings don't matter, what I go through doesn't matter, my experiences don't matter, and anytime I do say something about it, I'm in the wrong and I get in trouble or I get yelled at or I get like, whatever. It always comes back on me for even having the problem in the first place. So then you're like, well, I'm not even going to have feelings. I'm not even going to like, it doesn't matter. My feelings don't matter. What I go through doesn't matter because I've tried to say it and it's always turned back on me in a negative way to be my fault. All right, next point about narcissistic parents. We're putting them bitches on blast today, buddy. And I'm going to explain a little bit later on why I don't give a fuck about this. Like why I don't have an issue or feel bad or feel guilty in any way for putting these people on the spot. I'm going to get into that later. But for now, another thing that narcissistic parents do, if you've ever noticed this, you may have a narcissistic parent, is that any accomplishment or skill or good thing that you do is only because you're their kid. So of course you did this well. You're their kid. Of course you're good at that. You're their kid. Like, duh. So, like, it has to have something to do with them. Anything good that you do, any accomplishment that you make, they have to take the attention away from you and put it back on them. They will not praise you because, in their mind, they are the only one that deserves the praise because you're their kid after all. They raised you, they fed you, like, they put you through school. They put clothes on your back. So you wouldn't even be here if it weren't for them. So they should get all the praise. Like, forget cheering you on. Forget praising you for being smart. Forget, like, giving you the credit for working hard at anything. Forget all of that because guess what? They brought you into this world. They had everything to do with it. It's only because of them that you did that. Like, that is a narcissistic fucking parent. Another thing that narcissistic parents do, if you've ever noticed this, and these are all things from my experience, like everything that I'm listing is something that I have personally experienced. Narcissistic parents, these types, will force you to do things. They will force you to go places, and or they will force you to attend events so that they look good. That it does not matter if you don't want to go. It does not matter how you're feeling about it. It does not matter if you experience abuse at these events or if these events give you incredible, terrible anxiety. It doesn't fucking matter because guess what? They don't give a shit about how you feel or your experience because they're narcissistic. A narcissistic parent might only show you affection in front of other people. And I'll give a story from my own experience. And again, this is something that I did not notice until probably the last year, like, which is crazy. But yeah, I didn't notice it until now, pretty much until like the last year or so. This parent would only like hold me or cuddle with me or let me lay on them and like lean on them at church, like during a church service in front of everybody, in front of the congregation. It didn't happen. Like other than that, there was no like cuddling and like laying on the couch cuddling with this parent. Never, it was never a thing. It was never a fucking thing. Like there was never just being held when I was upset or crying or going through something. this parent would only ever hold me while we were at church, like during church service in front of other people. Because like if a child is crying or upset or going through something or whatever, a lot of times the parent will just hold them. We'll just sit there and just hold them, and just let them feel their feelings. That never happened. Never happened at home. Never happened really anywhere else except at church. What made me realize this is that I thought back to an experience that has as a child, and I was in daycare a lot because I was raised by a single parent. And so me and my sister were in daycare like a lot. Like after school, we were always in daycare for a couple hours, and then during the summer, we would go to like a daycare where you would just be there like all day, basically for if for the whole summer. Like you would get there at like 8 o'clock in the morning and stay there until whenever your parent could come pick you up at like 5 o'clock at night, right? So we kind of like lived at this motherfucking daycare. Well, anyways, what made me notice this and like yeah, basically what caused me to notice this as I was thinking about when I was a child at this daycare one time, Miss Vicky. Oh my God, Miss Vicky. I loved Miss Vicky and Miss T. Shout out if y'all ever hear this, probably not, but shout out to Miss Vicky and Miss T. Um, they were literally, I swear, angels, just angels on this earth. Thank God for them. But, I think I was being bullied. Yeah, I think I was being bullied because story time. When I was like, I don't know if I was like 5 or 6, but I cut my own hair because I was a child, I cut my own hair just because that's what the fuck you do sometimes, and it was terrible. And so I ended up having to go get like a bowl cut looking type deal because I had just like butchered the fuck out of it. So it was like all they could do to like save what was left. And so yeah, I was like really embarrassed about like my new haircut because it was super short, and to me it looked like a bowl cut and I hated it. And so I was at daycare one day and I was crying about this, and Miss Vicky picked me up, and she sat in like a rocking chair, and she sat me in her lap, and she just held me, and she just let me cry on her chest, and she didn't say anything, and she just held me, and she just rocked back and forth, and she just let me cry, and she wasn't even saying it. She was just letting me feel my feelings, and she just held me there and rocked. And I just cried for probably, try not to cry right now, just talking about this. Oh my God, 15 minutes. Ooh, I thought about that experience. I thought about that experience like a few months back, like because I had been reminded of it somehow, and I was thinking about it. And then it made me realize that a narcissistic parent might only show you affection in front of other fucking people. Everything they do is motivated by other people's perception of them, which leaves absolutely no room for their child's experience to exist. One of my favorites is from my own experience. You were a gift from God. Oh, you were an unexpected gift from God. But yet at the same time, you're a gift from God, but they don't actually want to raise you. Because if they actually wanted to raise a child, then they would acknowledge that there is nothing easy about raising a child. When people say, "Oh God, it fucking irks the shit out of me," when people say that they have a difficult child, like an easy child is a fucking oxymoron. There is absolutely nothing easy about growing up. There is absolutely nothing easy about life. There's nothing easy about raising a fucking baby that grows into a child, that grows into a teenager. So can we just let go of this goddamn myth that having a child, that any child ever is should be expected to be an easy child, or that any child ever is a difficult child? Because when you talk about easy children or difficult children, you're basically it's manipulation to get the child to try and act like an easy child for you. You wanted to have the child around to feed your own ego, but you didn't actually want to raise the child, the gift from God that you just brag about to everyone under the fucking sun. Oh, she was an unexpected gift from God. Such an easy child. Now this one's the difficult one. Like it's manipulation to try and get the child to act like an easy child, which no child is an easy child, and no child should be made to feel like they should be an easy child, because childhood is not easy. Like raising a fucking child is not easy. So when we say things like this child was difficult or this child was easy or this child is difficult or this child is easy, it manipulates the child in a way to feel like they're not allowed to struggle, right? Because it makes the child feel like they're not allowed to struggle because they want to be an easy child, right? They want to be a good child. They want to be the easy child. They don't want to be the difficult child. So they feel like they're not allowed to struggle. That's what gets internalized. You're not allowed to struggle. And if you do, the parent refuses to deal with it. The narcissistic parent refuses to deal with it if you do struggle. Because if we go back to this whole like the only fucking reason you had a child in the first place was to feed your goddamn ego, you don't actually give a fuck about raising the child. Then when the child does inevitably struggle because life is hard and learning is hard and being a baby is hard and being a toddler is hard and there's just like nothing easy about life. There's just not. There's nothing easy about growing up because we're people and we have feelings and we have experiences and life, hashtag fucking life. Then when the child inevitably struggles, the narcissistic parent refuses to deal with it. I don't know. For me, personal experience, I just got to a point where I if I did struggle, I just kept it to myself because it didn't matter, right? Like this person did not want to deal with it and I was lashed out at, like lashed out. I'm talking like yelled at, bitched at, like blamed, like I can't believe you would do this to me type of shit. Anytime I had an issue or I had a problem or I had a struggle or I tried to express something that was bothering me, it was literally like I was immediately then lashed back out at. How dare you struggle? Basically, how dare you struggle when I've done all this for you? They refuse to acknowledge anything that they need to change or work on or self growth. Self growth is not even a factor. It's not an option because they don't give a fuck about like they can do no wrong. And if they do, like, and if you say that, all hell breaks loose. All fucking hell breaks loose. Let's get to why I don't feel bad for putting these people and their asses on blast. And by people, I mean like abusers and like narcissistic parents and talking all kinds of shit about this, like on social media and online and putting this on the internet. The reason that I do not feel guilty and I do not feel bad, I'm about to explain right the fuck now. They refused to reflect on past actions, whether that's their own actions or the actions of others. They refuse to reflect and possibly consider that what's been done is wrong. It's not even a factor for them. They refuse to even consider changing. They refuse to self-reflect. They refuse to admit that they need to grow in any area at all or that anything needs to change about their behavior towards others or the way that they've impacted their children or anything. Like they refuse to ever admit that their actions may have negatively affected someone else, especially their children. The rest of us, like if I'm going to get called out for my shit, which I do and have been many a time, thank God, because you can't learn if you're not told about what you're doing wrong, right? So if I'm 32 years old and and I'm busting my ass over here trying to change and work on myself and self reflect at past actions that I have made that may have negatively impacted others, um, things that I've done, the ways that I've acted, the attitudes that I've had, or like the subconscious, what's the word? Like, what do they call it? Like ingrained, like subconscious beliefs that you're unaware of, right? Ways that you were raised, whether that's racism or anything, sexism, misogyny, these beliefs that you're not even aware of, right? But they have been, because that's how you were quote unquote raised, they have been sort of like implanted in your subconscious and you're not even aware that all of the actions that you take, everything that you say, everything that you do, everything that you think, um, everything that comes out of your mouth is motivated unknowingly, like subconsciously, you're not even aware of it, is impacted by these thoughts that you have, these beliefs that you have that you're not even aware of. So I'm over here busting my ass trying to identify those in myself and work on those and work to change those beliefs and change those behaviors and change those words that I'm saying, the way that I speak about certain people and certain situations. Like, I'm working so hard to change those things because I realize how wrong they are, right? I'm over here busting my ass doing that because I care about how my actions impact other people. And I feel guilty and I feel bad for things that I've done in the past that were fucked up. But these people don't care. They have no intention on changing. They don't give a fuck how their actions have negatively impacted anyone else. They don't care and they have no intention on changing. So I don't feel bad for calling these motherfuckers out because the rest of us over here are doing the work. The rest of us over here are trying to identify the issues and the things that we need to work on and the ways that we have hurt other people. The rest of us over here are trying to fix that shit. And it is not easy. Okay. It's not easy. It's hard work. So if me and everyone else over here is working really fucking hard trying to grow and be a better human. And these cunts don't even care to entertain that idea. And they're adults. I mean, for God's sakes, these are like people in their 50s, 60s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, old ass motherfuckers. I mean, plenty of life experience, plenty of time to self reflect. Shit, I mean, you should be the wisest motherfucker up in this bitch. And somehow you don't even have enough self awareness to realize how fucked up you've been. The rest of us are doing the work and they could care less. They could care fucking less about it. So no, that's why. That's why they have no intention on changing or bettering themselves in any way, and they don't give a fuck how anybody else feels about it. So that's why I don't feel bad about putting these people and their asses on blast on the internet and on social media because they need to be called the fuck out. Like this behavior needs to change, and it's never going to change if we don't point it out, if we don't call it out for what the fuck it is. Um, so no, I don't feel bad. I don't feel guilty for talking smack at all, not one goddamn bit, because I'm over here doing the work and you don't give a shit about anybody else but your goddamn self. The point that I want to make is like there's this excuse, this quote that I heard the other day, and it's very common to hear this when you bring up issues like what I've been talking about in this podcast, and that is, well, it's this excuse that's made for boomers, basically, and you know, in anybody, like any narcissist or abuser or toxic person, like it's this excuse. Well, that's just how they were raised. That's just their generation. They don't know any better. Um, I'm halt, halt. We were all raised, right? We were all raised a certain way. So if we're going to use that excuse, then you're telling me that somebody who was raised as a racist, it's okay for them to continue being a racist as an adult because that's how they were raised. They don't know any better. We need to stop justifying people's behavior because that's how they were raised. They don't know any better. Yes, the fuck they do know better because the rest of us had to know better. The rest of us had to learn. The rest of us had to work on ourselves. Like, you cannot use that excuse. Like, so if somebody was raised to own slaves and they decide, you know what, I'm going to own slaves right now in 2024. You're telling me it's okay because that's all they've ever known and like that's how they were raised. That's just their generation. They don't know any better. Like, fuck off. Fuck. The rest of us had to learn. The rest of us had to know better. The rest of us had to learn better. So throw this bullshit ass, that's just how they were raised excuse down the goddamn toilet. Stop feeding everyone that bullshit. If that were a valid excuse, then it would be okay to own slaves right now because people were raised to own slaves. That's what you're fucking saying. You're saying it's okay to continue to be a toxic, horrible person because that's how you were raised and you don't know any better. Yes, you do. You've learned. You're an adult. You've had plenty of time to self reflect. You've had plenty of time to learn. You've had plenty of time to be called out. At 50 years old, you should have some wisdom under your belt. And for you to be this ignorant and fucking stupid to say that's just how they were raised, that's just their generation, they don't know any better, there's no excuse. There's absolutely no excuse. You're an adult. Grow the fuck up. And that's the way the cookie crumbles, bitches. Thank you so much for listening today. I love you all so much for supporting me. Please, if you have any controversial topic ideas for the podcast, please leave a comment in the comment section below here on this episode, or you can also reach out to me on socials and let me know any ideas you would like to have on the podcast here. I hope that somebody resonated with some of what I said. I'll see you guys next week. Love you so much. Have a wonderful day.